All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your presenter today. Our topic is probably not going to last too terribly long today. It's not a very lengthy or difficult topic, so we're probably not going to go the 20 minutes, but we're definitely not going to go longer than 20 minutes. We're going to be together at least till 1:20, well, at the latest 1:20. I will try to wrap things up as quickly as I can here with as much detail, and we'll try to get some folks' questions answered here. If you do have questions for me, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar control panel. If you've never attended a webinar event before, if you click the little red arrow on the sidebar of your webinar control panel, that allows you to minimize the control panel, perhaps on a single monitor setup, get the full visual presentation of the event. Or if you've got a second desktop, just drag it off to that second monitor desktop and get it out of your way. We're here to talking about paying a single vendor but printing two checks. This is, if I'm not mistaken, in our Accounting 103 book here on pages 33, 34, and it says 35, but it's actually only 33 and 34. So not a terribly long topic, but there are times when we need to enter a bill. We enter a bill to a vendor for two different line items, and the system will naturally want to try to bundle them into a single check, and we don't want that. We want to have two checks for one reason or another. Okay? And that's what we're here to talk about, is how that function works in the Church Windows software. Okay? So we're going to go into accounting. And the first thing that needs to occur is we can really pretty much print two checks for a single vendor, even if it's entered as just one bill. But the paying process becomes a little tedious. We have to click post in between. Okay? So the easiest way to make this work is that when we go to enter bills, and we're here and we're recording the bill transaction, you would choose, the same. If we choose, say, American Electric Power, and we come down here and we go down to rental, and I go, okay, I'm going to do my rental electric today, and we're going to enter that. I'm now going to click Done, Add to Batch. So I'm recording Bill A to American Electric Power. I'm going to go back up to my same vendor again here, reselect American Electric Power, and I'm just going to choose electric this time, not my rental electric expense. And we're assuming that's then going to be the church electric bill, and we're going to say, okay, this month it's $350, so my rental property was $125, the church's was $350, but I'm again clicking Done, Add to Batch in between each one of those. If I were to put them simultaneously, one right above the other, the system then is being recorded as one single bill. Okay, so by clicking Done, Add to Batch in between each of these, it is going to be posting two separate bill transactions. I can then on the next screen tell the system that I want to print two separate checks even though they're the same payee. Okay, so we're going to click Done, Add to Batch, and now I'm going to simply click Post and Pay these bills. Then it pops up and says, do we want to print the transactions? For the purpose of our webinar, we're going to click No on that. So we click No. It then opens up our Pay Bills window here, okay? And we notice that right here in the middle, we've got, well, I technically have a third invoice outstanding here, but the two we've just posted today, here's our 125, here's our 350, and we have the Pay Now box checked next to both of those bills, okay? So by doing it this way, it's now wanting to put it into one check. So what we have to do is over here on the right-hand side is, notice we've got a column header called Separate Payment. Okay? I have to put a check mark in both of these check boxes next to Separate Payment for these two particular bills. Let me get rid of my drawing tool. So once I check Separate Payment and Separate Payment, I'm now telling the system that I want to print two separate checks to American Electric Power and put two different checks in the print queue. Okay? Now, a couple things occur around this that are important to understand. Okay? This only works for payment methods of computer check. So notice here under my default payment method or under my payment method for the vendor, computer check is selected. If I choose any other payment method, this separate payment function is not an option. Okay? It only works when printing computer checks, nothing else. Okay? If you're wanting to produce two separate checks to one payee using something like manual checks, then you would be looking at having to choose each one of these separately. So if we change those to manual check, and it still makes it available, folks, I know it does, but it doesn't work. Because we get this call in support sometimes is, well, I'm entering manual check and I'm choosing separate payment and I'm entering the check number, but it's only allowing me to enter one. That's true, because manual check requires that we plug in the check number here at the time we are posting the payment transaction. It only allows us to enter one check number. So again, if you wanted to put in or produce, or you're printing or handwriting manual checks and you're needing to assign check numbers, this separate payment function isn't going to work for you. We would have to go ahead and say, okay, uncheck 350, check 125, plug in its check number, post it, then come back in, choose the next bill for the 350, choose manual check, and post that separately. Okay? So it doesn't matter whether you choose manual or cash or EFT, debit or credit card. The only payment that the separate check function works for is computer checks. Okay? So let's check that. So now we put, have check marks in Pay Now. We check separate payment for American Electric Power. Now when I click Post and Print Checks, again asking me to print the payment transactions, we're going to click No. Now when it opens up our Print Checks screen, now notice here in the window I do have two separate checks waiting to print and assign separate check numbers for American Electric Power. Okay? And so it's done its job. It's doing exactly what I've asked it to do. So now I would simply, choose my check layout, choose my asset, enter my starting check number, and when I go to print, to get to the preview, if I scroll down now to the bottom, here's my first check, number 5481 for AEP, and as I scroll up, I've got 5480 also for AEP. So I can put two checks in the printer, print them out, send them off, and they're going to receive two separate checks. Okay? So, that's really it, folks, is that the key is, one, you have to see both the two separate bills under pay bills to do that. So again, another example is, I put another one in here under Quick Pay View Outstanding Bills. I've got two bills here for 125 and 54 for Ameritech. If I check the select box next to both of those and create payments, it does have both of those invoices checked. Again, computer check is selected. I can now click separate payments, and when I post and print those checks, there'll be two checks waiting in the print queue for Ameritech, albeit they don't exist. But yes, separate payments works, folks, and it's the only way to put two separate print checks in the print queue for your for printing your checks to the vendors and to same payee. This is the only way to do it. So as I said, it wasn't a terribly long topic today. That's it though. That's it. We're wrapping up. We're only about 10 minutes into the event, so I'm going to check and see if there are any questions out here. Would this work if the line item account number was the same? Electricity for both, Alice. Allison, yes, that's absolutely right. It wouldn't matter how many expense accounts I chose. I could reselect the same expense account under both of them. So if yes, what they're asking is if I go back to my enter bills and I choose the same vendor and yet I still choose the same expense account on both of them, is that going to work? Yes, I just have to again make sure I'm clicking done, add to batch in between each one of those bills, so the system posts two separate bill transactions. Great question. Does that also work for two separate accounts? I'm not sure what accounts you're talking about, Robin, but if you're talking about like two separate assets, no. At pay bills, here we are back at this window. Because the checks are written off the same account, it has to be the same asset under both. So if I did have two separate bank accounts, I would have to click post in between each one of those payments, coming back into the second one and changing my asset account. I think, if that's what you're asking about. If you're talking about if it's two checks written to the same vendor off of two separate assets, nope, that won't work either. No, that's a good question. Yeah, so in this case, they're both coming out of the same bank account. Great questions. All right, I'm just kind of holding off here to see if maybe, yeah, that's what you're asking. Okay, great. Thank you. That's good to point out. I didn't mention that in the original topic, so that is good. Yes, that's important, that as long as they are both computer checks and they're both coming out of the same asset. Well, and in this case, they would share the same date occurred too, frankly. So the default the date occurred, the asset account, and the payment method would all be the same. Yeah, good point. All right, well, I'm not seeing any other questions in here. Again, as we always do, a video of today's event will be made available on our Support Center page of our website here at some point in the next few days. Again, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. So, everybody can have a little bit of a break here before you go on with the rest of your day. So we hope it's been helpful. Thank you so much for attending. And we hope to see you folks at another Church Windows webinar event. All right. Thanks so much. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.